So I recently beat Resident Evil 7, and I wanted to give it a little bit of time before I made my review so I could gather my thoughts and form my opinions and kind of get the lasting appeal of the game. So we're going to get right into it with a spoiler-free review. As far as the story goes, this game is not going to win any awards, but it was interesting enough to keep me playing, and it kept me wanting to know what was going on. As far as keeping this within the main series, it fit well. You play as Ethan, and he is searching for his wife who's been missing for 3 years, Mia. Now, she plays a big role in this game. You then meet the Baker family, and through a series of unfortunate events, uncover a possible secret. I'm not really going to say anything else because, like I said, this is a spoiler-free review.
Shit, he's not eating it, Jack! He's not eating it! Shut the hell up, Marguerite!
The next thing is gameplay. This game is first person, and in my opinion, it works well. It adds a layer of immersion that really makes the player feel like they are in the horror, and it lets you explore areas from a whole new perspective that Resident Evil hasn't had before. It also adds something Resident Evil has been lacking since they switched over to the third-person camera, which is not being able to see what's all around you. It reintroduces a level of suspense I haven't felt since classic Resident Evil games. As far as melee goes, you have your basic block and hit, nothing too special there, and I have to say the same for the weapons. The weapons work just fine. They didn't seem clunky. Aiming everything, it was just your basic first-person shooter when it came to weapons. The inventory system was extremely user-friendly, making it easy to manage my inventory, combine items, and they even had the chests back, just like classic Resident Evil. Also returning is save points. Just like typewriters, now we have recorders that save your progress throughout the game. I felt like that was a great thing to bring back to the series, and I much rather would have it this way than chapter-based like other entries into the series. Now, it still didn't feel hard like classic Resident Evils, where if you would die, you would have to go all the way back to your save point because there still was checkpoints. I don't think there's a way to take them out. I wish there was, but it's a step in the right direction. The health system is still very much the same as previous Resident Evils. You have a little watch on your wrist that tells you if you're fine, caution, or danger, and then you would use herbs, first aid, or you would combine herbs to then get first aid, just like previous games. Graphics, I thought they looked incredible. There's areas that you could say look realistic. There is some issues when you really look close into details. Some textures may not be there. Some of the characters might not fit in with how well the rest of the area looks, but overall they were great, and they really did add to the game and make you feel more immersed and made it feel much more realistic, like you were in the horror. I would often find myself distracted looking at items in the environment. The attention to detail was phenomenal. The sound in this game is huge. Between the wind blowing in the window to the slow growling coming from downstairs, it was a huge factor to why this game was as creepy as it was. Now, when you play this game, I highly recommend either use a headset or surround sound. I have played without both for a little period of time, and it just was not the same. The sound is big in this game. I cannot stress that enough. Overall, I'm really happy with the way the sound turned out. The next big one is environment. The environment in this game was incredible. The house that you're going to be going through for a big portion of this game was, I want to say, the most memorable area in a Resident Evil game since the RPD. It had secrets. It had locked doors. It had mystery to it. It had little crevices to explore. It was great. A lot of attention to detail they put into this. And now, I don't want to spoil anything, but this is not the only area you're going to be in. The surrounding areas and other locations you're going to go to, between the lighting, the graphics, and just the atmosphere, really immerse you and create a very memorable experience. There was a moment in the game when I had to go to the basement, and I was standing at the top of the staircase looking down at the door, and all I could hear was the wind blowing from the open windows behind me, and all I could see is the flickering light above the door. And I felt so immersed into the game that it created a very lasting memory for me. It's moments like these you're going to have a good amount in this game. And then you go back here and you hear the fucking creepy wind blowing, and you're like, oh, back in this shit to a fucking basement with a flickering light. This is probably the goddamn dissection room that I didn't want to go in, but I need the dog's head to get out of here. The next thing we have is enemies. Early on, you're going to see that you have enemies that are very much like the Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, and if you don't know what that is, these enemies will pursue you, and by pursuing you, it'll create tension. This game has a lot of tension. I was playing with other people, and I was just telling them that you are not going to get the full experience of this game unless you play it yourself. This game is full of tension, full of surprises, and there are other enemies they introduce into this game that sort of take on the zombie role from classic games. Unfortunately, one of my biggest issues with this game is the lack of enemies. For the first 2/3 of this game, I want to say I had a really good time being introduced to all the enemies I was going to be dealing with, but then after that, it was just more of the same thing over and over, which made me a little disappointed. You'll hear me referring to classic Resident Evils over and over in this review, and it's because I am a huge fan of the original series, and all I can think about is the moment you meet the Licker, the moment you meet the Hunter, the moment you meet, you know, Mr. X. All these very memorable moments of the classic ones, and you really won't get that with Resident Evil 7. I really do like the enemies they have, though. I just wish there was more. And after fighting the same thing over and over, it becomes repetitive, and it's just not scary anymore. It kind of gets annoying. As far as boss battles go, it's a lot of the same. Find the protruding object, shoot it a number of times until something else happens, and then continue them steps. Nothing really innovative, but I also didn't have a big issue with it. It's a lot like other Resident Evil games.
Welcome to the family, son.
No, I don't want to be in the family. Nope, nope, nope. In conclusion, this felt very much like a modern-day first-person horror/shooter game with added classic Resident Evil elements. You have your puzzles, horror, survival, inventory management. There's mystery, again, and tension. It's all there, but where the game lacks is the variety of enemies you will face. Later in the game, you begin doing some of the same tasks repeatedly that will become a little bit repetitive. Despite that, I had an excellent time with 2/3 of this game, and the other 1/3 was okay. Overall, I really enjoyed this game, and I like the direction Capcom is taking the series. I give this game 7.5 gawking grandmas out of 10.
Oh, the grandma! Hey, I missed you.
Even though we don't talk, I know we share a connection. I really hope you enjoyed my review, guys. This is the first one I've ever done. It was a lot of work, but I had a lot of fun doing it. If you want to see my first time playing through Resident Evil 7 or my unboxing of the Resident Evil 7 Collector's Edition, you can click on the videos above. If you want to see me do more reviews, more unboxings, some Let's Plays, please let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks, and have a good day.